Paris. And what you heard before was not us going live. We are really going live right now. You're listening to In Touch News, and I'm one of the co-hosts of Straight Up the Middle, your national, state, and local political discussion show. And I am here this morning with none other than the wonderful.
Your audio kicked off or went off. So who he was introducing you guys was the wonderful Professor Tony Siebler. It's strange how that happens when he's introducing his co-host on the right. It's strange how that happens. Almost like the election, but I'm trying to get over that, how things just happen left to right and the left. Things that never happened before.
I am not nearly as technologically savvy as you are, my good man, and well, I appreciate you understanding my challenges. So, great week though here for those who don't know, we are located in Tampa, Florida, and the Buccaneers.
Yeah.
How about that?
Let me slide over so you guys can see that.
Yeah. What is that? An old Doug Williams jersey back there?
Not by a long shot, but I do want that orange. So I do want that old jersey. But yeah, we're coming in. We're coming back in, man. The Bucks really needed this. I didn't know we had the worst winning percentage of all professional sports. I didn't know that. I think they mean playoff, though. Hopefully they mean playoff.
Maybe so. Yeah, that's the case. But I mean, tell me about. I mean, what were you Buccaneers making the Super Bowl? Did that like, whoa, wait a minute? That kind of blow you away or surprise you, or what were your thoughts when you realized the Bucks are in the Super Bowl?
Right. It was a dream come true. That was the whole reason for getting Tom Brady. And if it didn't happen, it would have been just, I don't know, we can just chalk it up to the Bucks having the worst picks and just not panning out. But our defense had always shown promise, and we've been known as a defensive unit, but we just couldn't get over that hump. And my concern was bringing in an older 40-year-old quarterback and expecting him, putting that weight on his shoulders. And then, because what we would probably do is blame Brady if it didn't work out. But say, this guy's all hype, but the guy's 43 years old. And that's ancient, in football years. So it was a dream come true. It was what it was all about. So I'm willing to say right now, if we don't win, I'm cool. I mean, because we're going to be there in the big game. The team's going to get that extra bonus check for just making it. So everybody wins. Now, we want the ultimate W. And I think we have a good chance, not just a little chance. We have a good chance of getting it. Our defense can really get after you. And look, one more thing. And you're a guy, or at least you're alumni, JPP. I mean, JPP is stoked. He's ready. So, go USF Bulls.
Yeah, the Bulls. Ironically, most people don't realize they put a number of players into the Super Bowl, NFL, and they've got a number of players that have really done well at that school. He's just a most recent example of just talent getting an opportunity, because he only played one season at USF.
I didn't know that.
He transferred in, played one season. He was drafted, way up by I think the Giants.
The Giants,
right out of USF. So, but yeah, just ironic that you could put a team together so quickly that would make it to the Super Bowl. I wonder what that says about the NFL. But if you look at some of their key players, their top talents, Tom Brady, I'm going to say he's the best quarterback ever.
Mm-hmm.
Jim Brown will be the best football player ever, but I'm going to say Tom Brady. And then you add some key other components. The wide receiving core is solid. You add Fournette to the running back component. He's a reliable veteran, and that defense, like you said, that if they can play with it, they can keep everybody on the 30 points. So if you can get in the high 20s, 30 points on the board, you've got a good chance of winning the game. And that's going to be really the issue with Kansas City. I think the Buccaneers keeping that offense limited so that they don't put so many points on the field. Now, the Buccaneer offense tends to have long drives. So that's going to eat up a lot of the clock time that Kansas City, I think, relies upon from its scoring dynamic of big hit plays and things of that nature. So I'm looking forward to I think, a great game. I'm going to be interested to see how the community embraces the event. And I would say this: In Touch News, for those listening on the radio, go to the In Touch News webpage and click on that commercial for courtyard5508.com. That is an off the chain commercial, 3 days of events going full speed. And that's where our headquarters is located as well. So I think it's going to be a great weekend. Downtown is decked out. I'm trying to figure out how I can sneak in town this evening and look around before the crazies show up. And then I've got about 10 friends of mine who contacted me saying they're coming to town for the Super Bowl to engage and stuff. And we're probably going to go out and play some golf, things of that nature. But also one of the things I want to point out is there's a large representation of African American coaches, not only from the Buccaneers, but also from the Buccaneers, but also throughout the NFL right now. We got both the defensive coordinator and offensive coordinator are African Americans, and it's not wouldn't be surprising if one or two of those people got elevated to head coaching jobs going into next year. And I think that you can see within the NFL the incremental growth of diversity in the head coaching because the lower level positions are being filled out, by these teams as well. So anyway, Bucks in the Super Bowl. To America, go Bucks. Now, Professor, I see you just put something up on our screen here. What am I looking at?
Oh, well, that was really what I was playing around with last week. But what you're looking at is my new affiliation. I'm still been out of shape with the Republican Party. They've been trying to get back in good with a lot of its base. I'm ultimately a conservative, and one could say I'm just right of center. There are a number of ways that you can describe a person on the right that's not necessarily a conservative or right winger. You just have to be right of center. And I think, well, one could say that was about the U.S. in general being right of center, but I don't know the way this administration is going, man. They have a hook around our necks and they're pulling so far to the left. I think we're going to be left of center here in less than 2 years.
Hold on.
But anyway, what we see here is my new affiliation. I am no party affiliation, so they're going to have to work for my vote, and I don't mind sitting out an election altogether. Won't even drive by the polling station.
Now, do you think your feelings and actions are representative of other Republicans right now?
I think so, but I think a lot of people are. Well, the short answer is yeah, I think so. I think there are a lot of disgruntled Republicans, and not so much because we were Trump supporters, but like anything else, I'm ex-military. I believe in following the last command. Now, I don't just follow any command, but I don't think President Trump was that bad the way they did him. And I think it was a coordinated effort. So I'm not going to get back into the whole vote steal and that kind of stuff, but it was a coordinated effort. You don't get that type of treatment if more than one person in the party hates you. So just how that played out, it showed me that they really wanted to get back to politics pre-2016. It had changed so much with a true outsider. I don't think they want a true outsider ever again. Ever again will they want a true outsider to come into that coveted position, which we say is the highest position in the land, and do what Trump did.
But think about this. Imagine if somebody you kind of know moved in your house and took over, starts telling people what room you sleep in, what time we're going to eat, moving furniture around. It'd be disruptive. And the people who are there would say, hey, I can't even get to whether this is good or bad. All I know is this guy's just wrecking everything that I know is normal around me. Isn't that what he did in Washington? And wouldn't you expect the response received?
Well, absolutely, but here's the thing. Those cliche title phrases, reach across the aisle. Washington is broken. We need to get rid of. We need term limits. But you get a guy who say, yeah, it is broken. And when I come in there, I'm not going to be a regular politician. And he wasn't. But see, that's just it. They still wanted the game to be played by the rules. Now they want you to be different because you said you were different, just like Joe Biden. They wanted us to believe And I think just knowing who Joe Biden was for 47 years, he's a moderate. And I'm not,
Okay.
this is not an ageism thing, but he's too old to be progressive. He had to learn those type of ideas. He had to be told those type of ideas. I mean, just there's certain things I came to this. Let me take it outside of politics. You ever notice? Because now I'm in this category. Old guys, old cats. So I want to talk a bit street lingo. These old cats that you see, they have a hard time getting away from what the style was when they were young. So they
Pimp daddies.
replicate the same thing. They wear the same kind of hat, that the same haircut, and to a large degree, their clothes, how they wear their clothes. Last example, they'll pull their pants up really high. We don't wear our pants up really high anymore, but you can't get away from certain things when you're from a certain generation. And that's what we have in Joe Biden. I called him a TV dinner. I mean, he's reheated, he's good. And sometimes TV dinners are great. It makes you look at the pack and go, man, I'm gonna get another one of these like next month. You don't eat TV dinners all the time. But that's what we have in Joe Biden. But kind of rushing to one of our points, but you see the number of executive orders this guy signed in less than 2 weeks. I mean, this is unreal. And for a person,
but even if you were to say that, isn't that a reflection though that he's not exactly the same old thing again?
well, one would think that, but you'd have to go past that. You'd have to go past and like they've been using against him when the internet is becoming everyone's best friend and their worst enemy. Because it's not about just the picture you posted. For some of my younger people, I try to say, don't post that picture. It's not that anymore or just that anymore. It's about what you say. Because now we can just archive everything. So when you say that you're abusing your power if you use it purely via executive action versus actually governing. You have all three chambers in a sense, although the Senate is split, but you have a VP there. Why so many executive orders? You haven't even given your operation a chance.
So let's do this real quick, Professor. Let's inform everybody about our new technology and how they can participate in the show. And then I'm going to respond about these executive orders and kind of we can discuss what it means for governing. So everybody listening, again, straight up the middle is on the cutting edge of technology, which should scare everybody. So here's the one. So we've had people having difficulty getting on our show. So here's how you can now participate on this show. You will text the number 25324. You literally type that in as the number that you're calling on you're sending the text to. 25324. I'm gonna go slow again for some of you out there. Had to go get a pen. You text 25324. And then the subject that you're going to put in is going to be SUTM. That's the acronym for straight up the middle. So the number 25324. Then you put down in your the body, your topic or subject, SUTM. Hit enter, and you're going to get a link to our Zoom page. And then you just click on the Zoom, and you'll go into the waiting room. And then the wonderful professor will bring you in onto the show. So I want to share that with everybody. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on. So, all right, Professor, let me jump into explaining the executive orders. It is the new way for presidents to govern.
No.
Yes, it is. It is. It kind of crept in. It kind of crept in after the issues that Bill Clinton had. It got a lot more speed under George Bush because the country was under threat of terrorism and anything good went at that time. And then Obama, when they decided we're going to make him a one-term president and no legislation will be passed, he got the healthcare bill through. But after that, pretty much, he was going to govern it was through executive action. And then, of course, Donald Trump likewise did a lot of executive action. One, he wanted to protect Republicans who were vulnerable, and he would take the heat, which I commend him for that. And he put in a bunch of executive orders. So in fact, what you see what Biden has done is most of his executive orders are reversing Donald Trump's executive orders, whose executive orders reversed Barack Obama's executive orders.
Good point.
Really, the only thing the president has at his disposal is executive action. You know why? Because he's not the legislative body. That's for Congress. And it's silly to think I get elected president, and I'm going to sit here until Congress gives me permission to go do what the people elected me to go do, and I have the authority under the Constitution. For those out there, hold on. For those out there who are not clear on our government structure, let me walk you through Government 101. The legislative branch passes laws. The executive branch runs the government. Let me try it again. Legislative, you pass the laws. Executive, which is the president, you run the country. You do the stuff. The Congress doesn't do the stuff. The president's executive office and his various ministers, they do the stuff that runs the country. And if there's a dispute legally, the Supreme Court interprets it. So my thought is, he's actually doing what he's supposed to do. The stunning part is nobody expected him to actually do this. But I got a surprise for you, Professor. Joe Biden is really the president.
Here's the thing. Where was that revelation? You know, we call that master of the obvious. Where was that 101 lesson when we had a president that was like the president? But here's why Joe Biden can't really use that. But you make great points. So, and I'll often say, and take this as a compliment, man, this guy is so much like Obama, it's unreal sometimes.
Get out of here.
I can sit here and listen to you and I go, man, you know what? He's right. And then when I step back,
it's okay. It's okay.
Wait a minute. He is not right. It is very convenient for him to make that argument because once again, I like how you framed the issue with Obama. Well, when Obama became president, and then you quickly interjected, well, because they said they would make him a one-term president, they said that about Trump. Matter of fact, they said he was illegitimate day one. 70 people boycotted his inauguration. You can't get more illegitimate in one term than that. And then so let's not even go there. The other thing you said that you didn't mention was differently than what Biden has now. And Biden essentially has all three chambers, all three houses. But we know that the Senate, he needs to do a lot of work if they don't get rid of that filibuster, right? Obama had all three. He had the House, the Senate, and he was the president. So there was really no need for him to run with this whole executive order thing now. But he didn't necessarily abuse it. This guy, Beijing Biden, it's crazy. 40 executive orders. It is crazy to have that many and say
42. 42.
40. Matter of fact, I don't know how many.
But let me ask you this though. As the executive branch, what's his alternative?
To govern what he said he'd do. He said, I'd be an American president. But let's not forget, supposedly he has 81 million votes. He has the world behind him. No reason to run out and just say you're going to do this because what he has done is
you missed my point though. That's all he has.
That's not all he has. He has the House and he
No. But it's up to Congress to pass its own laws. That's their business.
Well, here's the thing. He's a Democrat. They elected him. See, differently than Trump. Trump really could say he's self-made. This guy's not self-made. 47 years. You've been knowing half the Senate for 30 of those years. I mean, those guys hadn't gone anywhere. So you have that type of relationship built. And you got Nancy Pelosi in the House. So what do you mean that's all he has? He has the rest of the government with him. And if they're truly democratic policies and this thing that everyone should get, you don't have to go at it alone. As a matter of fact, you can make your point more and better by getting Congress to pass it. That way, the next guy can't come in and just
listen. So when you're driving the car and everybody in the car is discussing whether we get off at this exit or the next exit, it really doesn't matter. If you turn the wheel, everybody gets off. Well, he's turning the wheel. And I'm all for you holding the wheel. Hey, when the next guy gets in, let them turn the wheel how they want to. But I think that executive power has never really, it's suddenly matured itself in how it can influence governance. Now, I like it. I'll tell you why. If the country doesn't like the executive actions, guess what happens in 4 years? Somebody else comes in and you get rid of it. Unlike when you pass legislation. When you pass legislation, it's there.
That's what I
So
just
from
said.
my perspective, I'm not bothered by the executive actions. I think I'm okay, fine. And if we don't like it, guess what'll happen? He'll get voted out, and the next guy will come in and like he said, and undo these executive actions,
But you have to endure that for 4 years for that to happen.
as
So
opposed to enduring decades under legislation or decades under a Supreme Court rule.
but
It is
here's
the
the thing. At least you can say this was a bipartisan. It starts with executive action because, and I think there's a technicality, right? There's a difference between executive actions and executive orders. One is
correct,
binding and one is not. Executive order is binding, right?
right,
Executive action just this is my idea. This is what I think we need to do. This is what I want to do, but I never
right,
signed
right,
an order. Okay,
right.
so if you can say via my executive actions, I've now gotten bipartisan support, and these ideas, the American public can hold something against them if it was a bipartisan effort and the law was
Well,
passed.
look, hey, listen, you can forget bipartisan effort. That's window dressing. The Democrats are about to shove a bunch of stuff down Republicans'
Okay,
throat.
okay.
The
Thank you
way
for the honesty.
I'm
Thank
just
you
giving.
for
I
the
mean,
honesty.
what's about that? We're not waiting around. Listen, we all have that relative.
Let me turn this
That no
fan
matter,
up in here, man. It is hot in here. Go ahead.
that's okay. We all have that relative. No matter what's going to be on the menu for Thanksgiving, they've got a problem.
Mm.
So you don't even need to ask them which kind of pie dessert to have because they're going to complain about we don't need sugar, we don't need desserts, nobody eat. So no need to even ask them. Just tell them to show up because they're going to complain either way. The pie's too little, the pie's too big, the pie's burnt on the edges, the pie's not cooked good enough. It's going to be something. That's how Democrats are real. We say, listen, guys, you want to get on board? Get on board. Excuse us, we're moving this thing along. Like for example, and we can come back to it later. The potential new COVID stimulus bill that they're talking about. Hey guys, we'd like to talk to you. You get in here quickly and talk. Otherwise, this thing is going to go through reconciliation, and we're going to move on to the next issue. But Obama made the mistake, and Biden was there to see it, of spending so much political capital trying to get, number one, Republicans on board, and two, dissident or dissident, whatever you want to call them, Democrats who had their own personal agenda on board as well. So
Okay.
I don't think.
But for what example did Biden say? Are we talking about the ACA?
Yeah, right.
I don't know why that was a problem.
He's spent an enormous amount of time and energy on that, and I think, and this is what's going to be good about Biden is he's had to get in the catbird seat watching all the things that hampered the Obama administration. The other thing is, from the international standpoint, there are really no major issues happening. You don't have any international crises, so you can really.
Thanks to Trump, he didn't start a war. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, that wasn't a war. You're right. I mean, there was nobody wanting to start one.
Well, that's because North Korea acted accordingly. But you guys were just saying, "Oh, we're gonna have a war with North Korea because Trump is such a mean guy." Like, stop all that. Nothing. But anyway, go ahead. I hate to bring that reality into the show. Go ahead.
A lot of what you hear Republicans circulate in their echo is just banter that really is being discussed with the Democrats.
But see, the thing about that is I can pull audio from Nancy Pelosi. So that was Nancy Pelosi's word.
Well, no doubt that he is an issue, but there are no major international crises.
I know. I'm agreeing.
Think about it. I mean, Donald Trump, he had what did he have? Several peace agreements between people that weren't at war. He did a lot of good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So with that being said, let's safe to say this. I'm very happy to see Biden taking action, moving along, and particularly right now. I hate to, you're not a Republican on the record, but they're confused so much so they can't even mount a defense to him because they're too busy figuring out. And I'm gonna ask this question: it's not on our list of things to talk about. Real briefly, is what did you make of the trip McCarthy going down to see Trump. What did I not understand about? Because it didn't make, usually when the old guy's out of office, you don't give him any leverage to be relevant in the new power structure of the party. What was that about?
Let me hold that question. We have Carl calling in. Let me bring him in. All right, he should be joining. I'll be glad to answer that question. As a matter of fact, okay, now we have him. Carl, you're on straight up the middle. I see you're connecting to your audio, so I'll give you a couple of more seconds before I answer that question about McCarthy going down to Trump's house, because we're going to use that same analogy. See, now Trump's out of office. And Carl, do we have you? I see you do have audio, but we don't hear you, Carl. So if you're speaking, you either have to turn your
his mic is muted. You need to unmute it. There you go. You need to unmute his mic.
Okay, right. Okay, yeah. I'm just listening. You know, you got a good attorney here, Professor. I think you just need to let this thing go with Trump, man. He's he's done his damage. Let him go. He came in. He was just one of these criminal type presidents, whatever. Now, and the main concern is that we have the ugly head of racism that has been that he woke up inside of the Republican Party. So now with QAnon, Mitch McConnell, all these guys got this racist tent. I mean, they just he just waking these guys up. So now, I'm not saying that the Democrats don't have racism in there, but when you just blatantly just come out and be disruptive in a racial way with hatred or whatever, our democracy is gonna take a real big hit. And so now, and maybe that you may swing over and try to start another party or independent party or something like that. But what's gonna happen to somebody with the middle class?
What's going to happen with the middle class? Okay.
And now the country is going to go into it's going to have to our democracy has to reset itself. Wouldn't you say so?
I wouldn't necessarily agree, but I'll take your point.
Okay, right, okay, good. It's going to reset itself. Okay, but anyway, he's done his damage, man. Let him go, whatever. But I think the best thing with football, whatever. I think the best thing with the Bucks when they got a quarterback that has some knowledge, whatever, and he can be a defensive coach worst nightmare.
Well, thank you very much for calling, Carl. We appreciate you very much. All right, then. Thank you very much, Carl.
All right, he's going. All right.
All right, Professor. So first on this racism awakening in the Republican Party, do you think that's happened, or was it just always there?
I don't think this is that noise, and this is what I speak to, and I always wish I were a bit more, I don't say eloquent in speaking about it. The race card, the race issues are a distraction. And here's why I say that. The Democrats always use race. And I always feel, as an African-American, having been an African-American Democrat, I always feel that the white part, now how can I say that any better? But the Democrats always want Black people to feel bad about themselves. They can never enjoy the moment. They can never really enjoy the American dream without feeling you could have more, but these racist white people don't want you to have more. I'm like, when are we going to get past that? Because we have 1 minute, I believe, 1 minute to break. So I'm going to come back after. Let's bring this in back after the break, and then we can talk about the other point. But that always comes back to haunt Democrats. People get tired of always racist this, racist that. With the multicultural world we live in, I don't know how many Black families don't have a mixed child, but it's always white and Black, and you have it so bad if you're Black. And like, Can we get past that and just be Americans like you say you want to be, but you carry this, you keep dragging this race thing along?
We can get past that when we get past that. But right now, we're not past that. So we're going to talk about that. You listen to Instinct News Radio, reality radio. Everybody can be a star. Listen, hang in there with us. We're going to come right back after the break. We got a whole list of topics. The vaccine, GameStop, Janet Yellen. We just got a lot of stuff we want to talk about. You listen to Instinct News Radio, reality radio. We will be right back after this quick break.
So believe we hunted down 813-248-6300. Everything gon' be okay. Call Ricky, he coming. He taking care of state of Florida. Grab a pen of sundown. 184-361-RICK. That's 184-361-7425. Never word from the point forward. Just recline. Just ask Ricky. Plus your boy statewide. Just in case you missed it, I'ma tell you one more time. 184-361-RICK. Call Ricky. Ask Ricky. Legal medical referral service. The doctors and lawyers in our network are trained in handling auto injury claims and getting you the best medical treatment and recovery. Dial 1-844-361-RICK. That's 1-844-361-7425. Ricky. Ask Ricky.
In Touch Radio, where you can listen to a cruising flow of smooth soul and jazz, today's R&B, a fun touch of hip-hop and gospel.
All my music on one station.
Giving you a buffet of music, news, and entertainment. We're In Touch Radio.
All right, we're back live on Touch News Radio. Reality radio, everybody can be a star. My name is Attorney Harris. I am one of the co-hosts here on Straight Up the Middle. I'm joined by Professor Tony Seabrook. Good morning, Professor. Welcome back to the show. You know, we get a lot of questions sometimes, but what does straight up the middle mean? Because one of you guys sound like you're over here, and we're going to find out where the professor is, but he's not where I am. He's some other place. But what does straight up the middle mean? We really mean it really is a idea of having a discord. And unfortunately in America, too many of us only talk to people who think like we think, believe what we believe, and we become our own echo chamber. And I really look forward to the opportunity to talk with Professor Tony Seabrook because he brings a complete different perspective politically and socially to the issues affecting our country. And it helps to explore and validate what we believe and think. Because if you're only hearing people talk like you really may be missing a lot about what other perspectives may be relevant to situations. And oftentimes, sometimes they reaffirm what you already believe. But again, I think it's important that we have more discussions with people who do not think like us. And I would encourage my Democratic friends to reach out to Republicans and engage in discussions. Don't worry about trying to change their mind. How about you say what you have to say, let them say what they have to say, and then you guys have a beer or a Slurpee or a cup of coffee and cheer for the Buccaneers. But we should be talking more to people about a discourse. And so Straight Up the Middle is trying to be a venue where there can be a joining of ideas and we can hear different perspectives. And with that, let's get back into our discussion, Professor.
Your audio. You're muted.
All right, there we go. You never got a chance to really flesh out. You were going to give a comment before the break and before our caller came in. I want to give you a chance to finish that up.
Right. And when I hear the conversation about race and especially something that Trump may or may not have drummed up or somehow inflamed, it bothers me, not because I don't think that there is an issue of race, I have the problem that in the context when we're talking Democrat, Republican, it's always implied that Republicans are the racist ones and Democrats are the ones trying to bring us all together and not have this racial divide. When in actual, Democrats are the one who always leading with race. And the notion that we can legislate racial relations or relationships and make them better, it starts, like you just said, having a conversation. I never try to convince, just like when the caller made his point, I certainly don't agree with that. But there's no need in me taking the test because that's how he feels. Now, if he listens to me the same way I listen to him, then that's how we improve relationships. But to think that one can legislate under the banner of being a Democrat because Republicans are racist is crazy. And that's why it continues on, not because we have this problem only in the Republican Party. I mean, it seems like the Democrats are just, they're infatuated with, it has to be all about race.
In a county in Louisiana this week, they passed a new bylaw in a graveyard where people go get their cemetery, removing their all-white clause because a good Black fellow who had worked for the police department wanted to buy a burial plot. And it was shocking to most people to think, wait a minute, when he applied, they found out, well, we can't sell to you in 2021. Why? Because literally in their bylaws at the cemetery, white humans only buried here. That's why you need legislation, Professor. You have still in this country anchored in prohibitions to Black folks having the fullness of American experience. Now that is different than saying my neighbor has to like me. You can't legislate that, but you can definitely legislate that in a school district that they need to take efforts to remove restrictions on opportunity. That's the thing that Democrats will legislate. The problem I have is Republicans pretend like, what are you talking about? What do you mean there's these restrictions? There's a Black guy I heard about once upon a time that actually drove through our town. So surely everybody else can do and go where they want to go. That's not, there are so many things systematically steering people. And I'll give you a great example. Malcolm X says in his autobiography that when he was in school, he was encouraged to learn jobs working with his hands. Not your mind, go. And that's a subtlety that happens in a lot of different places still today where people are steered kind of, go this way.
I got a comment in the chat box.
So from my perspective, where the Republicans come up short is their willingness to acknowledge those restrictions exist and that we need to strategically look to remove them. Like what Biden said, executive action, he's asking every governmental agency to do a scrub. Look for things that you're doing that may prohibit people's opportunities for diversity in your,
Now let me stop you there because you're saying a mouthful. And my notepad is not working because I had some other things you said I couldn't write down, but I have a couple of comments.
Go ahead.
About those bylaws. The comment says, well, can't they change their own bylaws? You don't need legislation for that, which is a great point because the example you gave is just that. If they refuse to change their bylaws because it's their business, it's a board of directors.
I'll tell you why they can't. Because they use taxpayer paid for streets to access that cemetery. You can't take my tax money and benefit from it and not let me then receive the benefit that your business gives to the community. That's how they use laws to force hotels and entities to desegregate. You're right, it is your business. But if you're gonna use that to restrict people on race, you can't use my.
We're saying they can change the same way they implemented those bylaws without government legislation. They can also, as a board of directors, as a entity, a business entity change their own bylaws. Not that they can keep them that way, but not now, since that's been brought out, if they don't change them, they should have their own prerogative to change them. Now, if they refuse, then certainly they're receiving
Hey,
government money.
March 2021, they've refused. This,
But here's why I'll say that a long time ago, I found out many years ago, if you're on probation in the state of Florida, you weren't legally allowed to cohabitate. That was a long time ago. I was talking with a lawyer, and he was like, yeah, it's one of those old laws on the books. So there's so many laws on the books. I mean, we had the whole thing with
right, and I agree with you on that. And there are tons of laws that have been passed to try to control people's behavior, and that's a whole nother liberty issue about how do we liberate people. But I was just making the point, though. Here's where Republicans go bad: when you tell Black folks no reason to think about their racial limitations on your opportunities and the fullness of America, when there's no racial limitation on me having to pay my taxes. I got to pay my taxes like everybody else. And if I do that, I expect every opportunity everybody gets. And there's nothing wrong with people looking to make sure. And it's not just happening to Black folks. It happens to women and mothers with children and the LGBTQ community, VXYX, RMP community, all those folks. So, all right, let's move along, because I'm going to run out of time again. I want to remind people that we have made a great leap in technology here on Straight Up the Middle, where we can now bring you in via text. Here's how you do it. Text us at 25324 and then put in your subject matter, SUTM. That'll bring you to our Zoom link, and then you can pop right in the show, and the good professor will bring you on, and we can hear your comments. So that's how you can picture it. Now, somebody just sent me a message, Professor. This is just for giggles. They said McCarthy went down to meet with Trump because it was a insurrection planning meeting. They're going on the phase, phase 2 of the insurrection plan.
You didn't remind me. That was the question I was trying to answer. But go ahead. Yeah.
All right. So, okay, let's talk about the vaccine rollout. So we got the vaccine rollout, and I was thrilled to know that in Hillsborough County, where we are, they're using African-American churches as vaccine locations for people 65 and older. And I want to tell you something that was quite interesting to me. A gentleman that I know, that's a white gentleman that I know, had been complaining to me that he could not get the shot. He just was unconnected. He goes, I go to the website, nothing happens. My doctor can't do it. What do I do? And so I said, listen, there's a Black church in Tampa. People are going to be getting a lot of vaccines over the weekend. In fact, they're getting round 2 at one of the churches. They're already finishing up their staff. I said, look, since you know me, I can see if we can get you set up. So my friend who's retired, our intelligence officer at MacDill, is being set up to go in town to one of our Black churches to get his vaccine, because that he's unconnected to anyone who's been able to help him so far. But what are your thoughts about the vaccine rollout, how it's going, and some of the things that Biden has put out there, like this, what is it, 100 million in 100 days, 150 million? What are your thoughts?
Like you guys always wanted us to know that Trump is only doing what Obama had in place. So Biden is only trying to perfect a process that wouldn't have been in place had we followed some of the Democrat things, because they said that the vaccine couldn't come out within a year. So Biden is benefiting from some ingenuity from his predecessor. So let's just start there. I don't know that anything Biden does.
Hold on. Let me say, what did Trump do though to accelerate the development of the virus, the vaccine?
He relaxed the FDA leading. He led the way. He had the meeting. He had the public comments about what he was going to do to fast track the vaccine by not keeping them to previously restrictive methods of testing and blah, 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 which eats up time.
So what do you say about the fact that the Russian vaccine was developed in the same timeline? Mm-hmm. And I think the vaccine that they're using in Great Britain was developed in the same timeline. I mean, it sounded like to me, the science happened to be there.
Well, excuse me. What they do in another country, we don't necessarily operate that way.
Let me make my point though.
Excuse me.
It's like going into space. The more people go into space, the less magical what you did. I'm just saying that it seems to me the science to develop it this fast was there because multiple countries have done the same thing.
Well, we know there are things that are in place, but we also know that the United States is really based on a bunch of laws and rules that people put in place. You have to do this first, you have to do that first. I don't care about what happened in Russia. And to me, that's only a red herring that people on the left like to throw up. Oh, well, look what this other country did. Because those same people have to say they didn't even want Trump to do that.
I am all for things that Trump actually did. Like he
well, see, you're a man on the island. We're talking about the opposition.
I'm just saying that I'm just not for red hair. It's like me saying I should take credit for the Bucs getting Brady because I drove by Tampa Stadium, every day hoping for better. That's a little different. I don't want to get distracted. As it stands now, though, let's talk about the plan now.
Mm-hmm.
Are certain things within the plan that's being proposed at this point in time that give you pause or concern you? Meaning, one, is it realistic that we can do? I think it's 150 million he's saying, and by the end of the summer, have those people vaccinated. Mm-hmm. Or the idea that they're going to come in with a federal distribution program, I think, for the next phase to try to make sure we get teachers vaccinated, to try to get teachers back to school.
Well, the fact that there are no federal school systems, I don't know how that happens. How do you all of a sudden
injections? But they're going to do the injections because one of the issues for schools is the teachers are saying, "Hey, look, we need vaccines." The federal government's kind of saying, "Okay, coming in," because you can get the older people at the nursing home and some of the other locations.
Again,
we're going to get the teachers.
The federal government, contrary to popular belief, you had no problem throwing that with Trump. The federal government can't solve everything. People were going to die. If you were concerned about what other countries were doing, then why wasn't there a bipartisan effort to call China on the carpet as we were doing this? Why wasn't there a bipartisan effort to call them on the carpet?
Look, hold on. So you gotta. The problem with Donald Trump was he would reach a conclusion and then demand everybody provide him with evidence and information that backs it up. He reaches a conclusion. Right now, there's investigations going on in China, in Wuhan, and other places to look at exactly what happened. Get the information. I think then, and right now, it doesn't matter. It doesn't benefit us one way or the other who you point that finger at. We're dealing with that dynamic. But I thought Donald Trump's effort to, because the vaccine is going to be the key, would be the thing that gets us out. Now,
but to your point about the black church, because that's my thing, because what seems to be what they don't want you to focus on is African Americans are still pushing back. Look what happened to Hank Aaron. Let's not act like people weren't trying to connect the dot in the black community, especially the older blacks who knew of Hank. He's their legend. He got it. He was public about why he got it. He died within 15 days, no matter what they're going to say, because now what we know is that they're going to allow you to see what they want you to see. Big tech and social media, big tech and liberals are only wanting you to see and hear what fits their narrative. And really, it's an unholy alliance now, because now we're really at their mercy unless we come up with a better way of prying the two apart. But they want to put it at black churches. That's a dead giveaway. They're trying to get black people to go and get vaccinated. Black people going, look, man, you guys got a history of jacking us up. But now you want to sweeten the pot by putting it at my pastor's church. So now the pastor who wants some favoritism with his nonprofit status is not going to say, no, don't bring that crap here and have my church.
Why are you bashing the pastor's nonprofit?
Because pastors these days we don't have a church that's standing up. That the church is so absent in this fight. And this is where the church needs to stand and not being a site for vaccinations. Because if you're really, again, getting back to the Democratic Party, if you guys are really vested into racial tensions, then why you keep with these constitutional pretensions that I'm only here for your good, and not saying I know why? Because these same white people is who jacked you guys up historically. I know why. So I tell you what, we're open and honest here. We won't focus on you guys so much, but see that I'm like that with anybody else. Why are you calling me with this? You know, if you want me to be a part of it, make it open to everybody. And if I choose to be a part of it, then I am joining but don't target me and say, oh no, this is where you're good. You need this shot because you're black. I mean, it's like,
no, I don't think somebody's saying that. Is what they realize is one of the places you can access older African Americans is their church.
I said that. Put it at the church.
So you have the option, but you don't have to take the shot. You don't have to go.
And you don't have to put it at the church either.
Now let me tell you this though. I'm gonna be parked outside right about the time they finish. And if anything extra falls off if any boxes fall off the truck. Now, if you want me to, I can text you an address. But I'm gonna be parked outside just in case a box or two fall off. And I can get the shot. Okay, I got two more things, Professor. I really want to get your comments on. One of them is what happened with GameStop.
Yeah.
And the short sale situation. So for our listeners, okay, so oftentimes the big players, this is who controls the stock market every day. It's not really day traders per se, really. It's your hedge funds, your banks and financial institutions, your insurance companies, your pension funds. They buy billions and billions of dollars of stock every day, and that's what normally influences the market. So people watch to see what they do, and then you can know from a smaller investor standpoint, hey, where the market might go or not go. And what we had happen with GameStop, you had a bunch of major hedge funds and institutions take these short positions. And what that means is they said, listen, on Friday, come this Friday, the new Michael Jordans are coming out on Friday. And they're gonna, right now, the price when they come out on Friday, who knows what it's gonna be. But today, I'm gonna sell you those same Michael Jordans for $60. And if everybody sees that short position, other people think, whoa, the new Jordans are gonna be cheap. So let's all go take these short positions. And it forces the value down of a stock. It becomes self-fulfilling. Well, with GameStop, Reddit and some other news boards, this thing got hot, and little guys start saying, no, we like this. And I think it was GameStop, Amazon, and Nokia, and they decided we're gonna buy this stock, and everybody buy it. And it forced the price to go up. And when it did, these hedge funds got stuck and had to come in and cover these major losses. The crazy part was that the next day, you had several entities come in and stop the trading regarding GameStop. And if I want to be correct, they stopped. You could not buy it. You couldn't sell it. You could only buy it, so to speak. And so those people sitting on those shares couldn't sell. What was your take on it and the loose connection to Janet Yellen that's out there related to GameStop?
Well, the only connection that I saw was that she apparently had given some speeches to one of the GameStop.
$800,000 to the Citadel.
$810,000 to be exact. But here's the thing: that was total. She didn't get a $810,000 check for one speech. And I just love how people.
That's still a lot of talking.
History, exactly. So just because something happens years later, we're going to make this connection that she somehow was a part of it. Now, but to your point, I use Robinhood. We talked about I use Robinhood. I forget, and my wife uses the other one. These are the mobile apps that kind of keeps us in the game. In addition to my 401k, this is how I play around with the system. So I was glad that Robin, well, not so much glad, but I got the notice. I got a message on my app about them limiting or stopping due to the volatile market.
Yeah.
So once I looked at it and then stepped back, it seems that Robinhood was acting to stop it fiscally responsible. You know why? Because in the short term, the little guy may make some money, but in the long term, GameStop is really an old entity. I'm surprised every time I see a GameStop store, which is beside one of the favorite Starbucks I go, how are they even still open? This must be a front for growth.
You're right about that. Absolutely. Now, if we had a discussion a while back about some of your things that you're doing with your academic studies and things that we need to touch on. We got a couple of minutes, Professor. You want to go over those things real quickly before we wrap up our show?
Well,
we got 2 minutes.
Yeah. Well, my study, my dissertation is going to be the symbolic interaction theory, which is a micro theory that deals with interactions between, in this case, students and their professors, maybe students and the institutions, but those interactions as it pertains to persistence. And I'm targeting African-American males in the Florida college system. We used to say the FCC, FCS is what Florida college system stands for, but and it used to just be community colleges. Now, most of them, with the exception of some notable ones like HCC, which is still a community college, and I'm glad that they keep that banner. But to get past that, that's the general approach, and I want to actually reveal not what I think, but some independent research on why African-American males persist. And I started to go from the angle why they drop out. But then some of my research led me to the conclusion that it's a false dichotomy. To know why someone dropped out is not the same as why people stay, and vice versa. Why they stay is not the same reason why someone dropped out. So I'm going at from those Black male students that are they're still in, what are the things that make them stay when they had to face the same things that made others drop out? And it really intrigued me. I've been teaching I'm in my 15th year, and about 3 years ago, I noticed that.
1 minute.
Okay. And to be sure, I noticed that some schools stopped reporting on the stats of African-American dropout, because now there's also stop out in addition to dropout. And it became obvious when I asked questions, I got that strange look like, don't ask us that question in this big meeting where everyone can hear our answer. So that's the reason why. And I think there's a lot on that bone, especially with how Democrats approach their racial.
Well, good stuff, man. Well, listen, I want you to make sure I want you to keep us updated. Let's start talking about that as we close out the shows. And we love to hear our viewers, your comments on it as well. Listen, as always, the spirit of discussion. I did not get to Marjorie Taylor Greene. I knew that was something I want. Next week, though, if she's still around. Listen, everybody, we appreciate you all listening in. You've been listening to Straight Up the Middle on Intech Dudes Radio, Reality Radio. See you back here next week. Go Bucks.
All right.